Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing another family game night video because I think it's important that families get together and bond over something. Families need to be able to talk, communicate. Sitting there on your devices, your phones and your computers and laptops just ain't getting it done. You need to sit and converse and interact. What better way than over a tabletop game, role-playing game? You can do board games as well, and that's cool. But as once I discovered tabletop role-playing games, the board games seem kind of, I don't know, primitive. They're not. They limit your choices, and I'm all about choice. So, this one is not actually a story. This is more along the lines of an informational video. I did a couple of these earlier, and they seem to go over pretty well. So, this is about spell components in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and a lot of other games. Spellcasters can become extremely powerful, and there's only so much a fighter class can do when they get to higher levels. At lower levels, fighters just hack through wizards like they're nothing, because they hardly like start out with one spell and that's that. At higher levels, fighters won't, at least smart fighters, won't take on a wizard without some serious planning, because wizards get very, very powerful. To offset this, the game has created, it didn't really create it, but it utilizes what are called spell components. Spell components are material items that a wizard, for example, in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, needs to cast a spell. And in classic literature, you get, the Eye of Newt, Toe of Frog, Tongue of the Crow. Druids need mistletoe, that kind of thing. And clerics require spell components as well, but they're not near as bad as wizards. Wizards need a lot of spell components. Excuse me. And many dungeon masters don't even worry about spell components. Because they're frankly they're kind of a pain in the ass to keep track of. So basically what it boils down to is most dungeon masters tell their spellcaster players, the players who are running characters who are spellcasters, just donate a percentage, 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever, to your, write it off as spell components and call it good. Okay, and for the most part that works pretty good. At higher levels, you get into really bad spell components where you need a gem that's worth 5,000 gold or something, and that doesn't fit into that little 10 or 20 or 30% paradigm. That's something you have to actually get. Or, excuse me, when you get into when you get into really high level spells, they require specific items, like the Jewel of Amara. I think I read about that somewhere. It might have been in a movie. But some specific artifact or a specific singular item, which you can't buy. You have to go get. You know what I'm saying? But it all works pretty good as far as that little 10% bonus, that little 10% percentage to go towards spell components. And many dungeon masters just ignore spell components altogether, and that's fine. I've done that in games. I have players some of my players years ago just didn't want to mess with spell components, and it became a chore for them to keep track of, and it detracted from the fun of the game. I'm more of a records keeper guy, so I like perfection on my character sheet. So when I'm running a wizard, if the dungeon master requires spell components, I keep a list. That's just me. Years ago, a funny story here. Years ago, I was running a game, and the players wanted me to run it by the book, because we had a bunch of new players who had been playing. They said they'd been playing for a long time. We had 6 players. I'd played with 2 of them before, so 4 of them were new to me. One of them said he'd been playing for a little over a year. The other 3 said they'd been playing for a decade or more. So these were experienced players, and they wanted me to play by the book because they didn't want to get bogged down in house rules and things like that, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So I told them at the beginning, I said, excuse me, I said, if you're going to play by the book, it means we got to use everything. You got to use the encumbrance and armor class, for the armor, all the specific armor class stuff, the weapons effectiveness against armor class. They have charts for that. If you really want to get down and technical, and we have to use spell components. And everybody's like, yeah, no problem. It's all right. We had one guy who had been playing over a decade, he said, and wanted to play exactly by the rules because it was his insistence. He never bothered to buy spell components. And this was evidence first time we were in a situation where there was a wall they had to scale. They had to get up to the top of this wall to complete the mission, and they were trying to sneak into a castle, as I recall. And the thief in the group failed his climb walls, so he could not climb that wall. It was beyond his capability to climb that wall. And everybody said, "Well, we got to get up that wall. We got to get up that wall." I said, "Okay, fine." The wizard says, "No problem. I took spider climb for the day." I said, "Okay, great. You got your live spider?" He goes, "What?" I said, "Your live spider and your bitumen." "What?" "Yeah, that, according to the book, it requires bitumen and a live spider." I think it was bitumen, but I know it was a live spider that he had to consume in order to activate this spider climb spell and climb the wall like a spider. It's a neat spell, but he didn't have his live spider. And he said, "Well, I'll just jump up there." I said, "Cool. You got your grasshopper's hind leg?" He goes, "What?" "Your grasshopper's hind leg. The spell component is, you have to break a grasshopper's hind leg and jump up. It allows you to do the jump spell." He goes, "Well, I didn't get that." "Well, you can't do the spell then." He goes, "Well, we got to get up there. Everybody look around. There's no grasshoppers here." "Oh, crap. Find a spider. Find a spider." And the hilarious part was seeing 6 high-level characters on their hands and knees rummaging around trying to find a live spider as a spell component for the wizard, who insisted on playing by the book and insisted on everything that goes with it, who failed to buy his spell components. That was just hilarious, because in game time it was like 4 hours before they found a live spider, because they found some and then they ended up killing them by accident. And one of them finally got the live spider trapped, and I got it. He's got it in my hand here. It took a while in game time, and in real time it took something like 12 or 15 minutes. And all the while I'm rolling to see if the guards have seen them. Play by the rules. You got to use spell components, and it's an understood thing that if the players and the dungeon master agree not to use spell components, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to. But if you're going to use spell components, you got to use them. You got to use all of them. Otherwise, it creates an imbalance in the game. And that was just hilarious. And you know what? Those guys never wanted to play by the book again. Imagine that. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.